Good morning, friends. Welcome to another Decoder Talks. Can you picture the Jornal Nacional theme song? Dun dun dun, dun 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 dun. So, with the latest news from our dear Zandaquisto, Alexander de Moraes has ordered that Bolsonaro be taken to the federal police to have an electronic ankle monitor installed. In other words, like I've been saying, Bolsonaro is going to be arrested and there's no way to change that. The narrative that was established and built up since the elections, which, in my opinion, were rigged, was that the guy with 9 fingers was unconvicted, right, and put into, run the country. Because for me, at that time, what made sense was exactly to pick someone with some popularity to go up against Bolsonaro, because otherwise, obviously, the media's narrative wouldn't stick. It wouldn't line up with the truth of what actually happened. In other words, they needed someone with a certain level of popularity, which was the case with Lula, so they cleared his convictions and, obviously, when they did that, I had already warned that they would, in fact, put him in the presidency. So, what's happening today is nothing more than the consequence of all those events, right? The fact that Temer put Zandinelli in power, obviously, that came from a globalist order, right? So, really, we're not seeing anything new. This kind of procedure isn't necessary. It's a globalist agenda for 2030, and we're seeing it play out today. So, in this case, what's happening now? Well, we can't have, Zando can't just unconvict those 1,200 people he's already convicted, supposedly for a coup. In other words, if there's no leader to carry out the coup, then obviously, he couldn't have convicted another 1,200 people, just regular citizens, right? The popcorn vendor, the lipstick girl, and so on. So, obviously, the narrative has to keep going. They can't backtrack. So what's happening now? This move to put an ankle monitor on Bolsonaro is nothing more than a preliminary step so they can arrest him at any moment. What Zando is afraid of is exactly that Bolsonaro might seek refuge in an embassy and, to escape from prison, in quotes, okay? So, I recorded another video with more details about these issues, but basically, expect Bolsonaro to be arrested at any moment. I thought it would happen at the end of the year, when people would be at home celebrating the year-end holidays, and obviously, that would be a good time to arrest Bolsonaro. In this case, it looks like these pieces are moving a bit faster. So we can expect that he'll be arrested soon. But let's see what happens in the next chapters, what will unfold in this Brazilian dystopia. See you next time.
Hey, Brazil, wake up from this tropical nightmare where judges dress up as emperors and democracy is just an Instagram filter. This is Enrique Toledo, and on today's Decoder Talks, we're going to dissect the hottest soap opera of 2025. The alleged arrest warrant for former President Jair Bolsonaro, issued by Zando Moraes, the Supreme Court's Darth Vader in a robe. Yeah, that guy who thinks the Constitution is just a disposable napkin. The gossip is on fire. Word is that Moraes, the maestro of censorship and czar of handcuffs, supposedly signed a warrant to throw Bolsonaro behind bars. Why? Because the myth allegedly led a coup plot to overturn the table after losing the 2022 election to Lula, the PT's lifelong mascot. According to Reuters, the Attorney General's office accuses Bolsonaro of orchestrating a plan that even included crazy ideas like poisoning Lula or putting a bullet in Moraes himself. Seriously, it sounds like a B-movie script, but this is Brazil, where reality is more absurd than fiction. Now for the question that's on everyone's lips and all over WhatsApp groups, what is Bolsonaro going to do? Is he going to surrender like a lamb to the slaughter? Is he going to try to become the Brazilian Rambo? Or, as some Bolsonaro supporters dream, is he going to run to the American embassy, praying that Trump, the ultimate leader of the free world, will pull off a rescue worthy of Mission Impossible? Let's speculate, because speculating is the national sport. And here at Decoder Talks, we play without fear of getting a red card. Option 1. Bolsonaro surrenders and becomes a martyr. Picture Bolsonaro, with that face like he just ate spoiled bitter melon, turning himself in to the federal police with an epic speech live on YouTube. I am the myth, I'm going to jail, but the truth will prevail. The Bolsonaro fanbase goes wild, social media blows up, and he becomes the right-wing Nelson Mandela, at least in his supporters' minds. The problem? Moraes isn't playing around. The guy has already arrested congressmen, blocked accounts on X, and even ordered X itself to be shut down in Brazil for 40 days because Elon Musk wouldn't bow down. If Bolsonaro gets arrested, forget about habeas corpus. The Supreme Court has turned into a club where Moraes is the DJ, the judge, and the bouncer, all at the same time. And there's more. According to the BBC, the Supreme Court has already decided there's enough evidence to put Bolsonaro on trial for attempting a coup. If he turns himself in, he could get more than 40 years behind bars. 40! That's more time than Lula spent promising steak to the people. And with Moraes playing the roles of prosecutor, judge, and executioner, the chances of a fair trial are lower than finding an honest politician in Brasilia. Option 2. Fleeing to the American embassy and dreaming of a Trump-style rescue. Now, the juiciest theory, Bolsonaro giving the slip to the federal police and running to the U.S. Embassy in Brasilia, thinking Uncle Sam will save him. This idea is pure, unfiltered Bolsonaro delusion, but let's have some fun with it. The embassy is American territory, technically out of Moraes' reach, at least until he decides that U.S. sovereignty is just a minor detail. Bolsonaro could try to hole up there like a uniformed Julian Assange, hoping that Trump, his international bromance, sends in a Black Hawk helicopter with Marines singing Sweet Home Alabama. But hold your horses. Even if Bolsonaro manages to get into the embassy, Trump isn't exactly the white knight that Bolsonaro supporters imagine. The guy is dealing with his own messes in the United States, and according to the New York Times, the relationship between the two is more about ideological affinity than a blood pact. Trump even defended Bolsonaro on Truth Social, calling the process a witch hunt, but from there to launching a rescue operation in Moraes' backyard, it's more likely that Musk would send a SpaceX rocket to pick up the myth in orbit. And there's another problem: Brazil is in Afghanistan. An American operation on Brazilian soil would be a diplomatic incident of epic proportions. Lula would go cry at the UN, Moraes would block X again, and the world would laugh at us like it was an episode of Black Mirror mixed with Zora Total. Besides that, Open Democracy says that Bolsonaro supporters, like Eduardo Bolsonaro, are trying to convince the U.S. to sanction Moraes, but so far, the most they've managed is a Trump tweet and a few statements from Republican congressmen. Rescue? Only in the wet dreams of the activists. Option 3. Bolsonaro becomes a fugitive and Brazil turns into a circus. The third possibility is Bolsonaro just saying screw it and going on the run. Picture the guy in a cap, sunglasses, and a fake mustache, hiding out on farms in Mato Grosso or on the beaches of Santa Catarina. It would be the biggest reality show in history, running from Zando. But let's be realistic. Moraes has the federal police, the Supreme Court, and even Wi-Fi at his fingertips. The guy has already ordered the arrest of bloggers like Alan dos Santos, who fled to the U.S. and tried to extradite him without success. Bolsonaro doesn't have the means to live as a fugitive. He's not bin Laden, and Brazil doesn't have caves where he could hide out with an AK-47 and a diesel generator. Besides, according to Folha, Moraes is already keeping an eye on Eduardo Bolsonaro for trying to lobby against him in the United States. If the myth becomes a fugitive, the whole family will be in the crosshairs. And with the Supreme Court acting like a tropical Politburo, it's only a matter of time before they find Bolsonaro at a barbecue in Guyana, turned in by a cousin who wants the $50,000 reward. The harsh reality: let's not beat around the bush. Bolsonaro is in a tight spot. If he turns himself in, he becomes Moraes' trophy and could rot in jail. If he tries the embassy, he becomes an international joke and probably won't get away. If he goes on the run, he'll become a meme until he's caught. The truth is, the Supreme Court, under Zando's command, has become a steamroller. The guy has already frozen accounts, arrested congressmen, and even took on Elon Musk, and won. Trump can kick and scream on Truth Social, but as long as Moraes controls Congress and has Lula and the PT crew on his side, he's pretty much untouchable. And what's left for Brazil? A circus where democracy is the main clown. The Supreme Court has turned into a political party with police powers, Congress is an audience of paid applause, and the people? People are busy trying to pay the electric bill while the dollar hits $5.60 and inflation eats away at the minimum wage. That's Brazil, my friend. A country where justice wears a superhero cape but acts like a villain from a Mexican soap opera. So, what do you think? Will Bolsonaro turn himself in, run away, or try for a Trump-style miracle? Leave your thoughts in the comments, hit like, share, and subscribe to Decoder Talks, because here the truth comes without anesthesia and the sarcasm is free. See you next time, before Moraes censors the channel.